Hey everyone, welcome to our first Web3 Builder webinar series where we're going to be putting the spotlight on some of the key building teams behind Polkadot, Substrate, and related aspects of the ecosystem. So today we're going to be hearing from the Laminar and Acala team, or at least a good part of the Laminar and Acala team to talk about their great projects. I'm Dieter. I'm from the collaborations team at the Web3 Foundation. And before we get in to Rui Tao and some of his colleagues, I wanted to talk to you guys a bit about the grants program. Both these teams have been funded from our grants program, and thought I would kind of just give an overview of what that program looks like and some of the program and some of the kind of different tools we funded from it in the past and hopefully in the future as well. So if you look at what our program has funded in the past, we have this nice little infographic that describes it. We've got about 200 applications submitted in total. This is now at a date. This is what was at the end of last year, and now this is closer to 250. Of those, we funded, here it says 62 projects, but it's actually almost at 100. Soon we'll actually announce the funding of our 100th grant project, which is pretty special. Of those, it says here about 17 have actually finished the development work. Now this is closer to about 20 or 25 of them. So about a quarter. About a quarter of all teams, which is really awesome. So not only are we actually funding teams, but important stuff is getting built. So in terms of what we're focused on, we're almost exclusively focused on software developments. We do fund a little bit of research and kind of technical education efforts as well, but it is mostly focused on software development related to Polkadot and Substrate. And if you look at our development areas over here, you can see the majority of things we're funding are runtime modules and specific, chain specific features. This is the case in particular for Laminar and Acala. And then you can see we're also interested in many other areas as well, such as developer tooling, UI, wallets, various other ecosystem components, and all the way down to really core protocol layer stuff, like actual work into cryptographic libraries, and even some research in cryptographic primitives as well. So this kind of, if you guys are interested in eventually applying to our grants program, this is kind of a good high-level overview of what we're interested in funding. So I won't take up too much time, but if that kind of interests you and you would like to think about applying for a grant, please visit grants.web3.foundation, which has kind of information on our general grants process. And you can also go to this GitHub link below it, which actually has a new program we launched, which is our Open Grants program. And the point of the Open Grants program is to give very quick decisions on small grants below $30,000. So actually the first application that went through there about a couple of weeks ago, it was submitted and had a funding decision within 24 hours, which is pretty special. So if you're interested in learning more about the programs, please check out the GitHubs or the websites or the GitHub, and you can also get in touch with me. There's my Telegram and email address there. I would love to chat if you guys are interested in building certain projects. So without further ado, I will give it over to Rui Tao to talk about, I believe he's starting with Laminar.
Okay, let me get prepared and share my screen.
Okay, so your video.
Okay, can everyone?
Yep.
Okay, can everyone see me and can everyone see my slides up on the screen? Test. Okay, great. Thanks for all the helping from the backstage then, and thanks a lot for the invitation to being the honor to be the first presenter in the Web3 Builder program. Today I'm going to talk about the two projects that we are building on. So there's Laminar and there's Acala. So these two projects are all DeFi related, and they we are building on the Polkadot / Substrate ecospace. I did a presentation back in last year in the Sub-Zero conference regarding mostly focus on the Laminar side. And for today, I would like to share more about the Acala side, which is a stablecoin project that we've been building on top of Substrate / Polkadot. Before we go into the program, I would like to introduce our presenter. So that's myself. My name is Reithal. I'm the co-founder of Acala and Laminar, and I'm also the CEO of Laminar. There's also Bryan. Bryan is the CTO and the chief architect in both projects. He's also a very active contributor to the Substrate repository. He's probably the most active contributor outside Parity at this stage. And there's also Bette. Bette is CEO of both projects. She look after the operation and the business development side of both projects. I'm going to briefly share the schedule that we are going to go through today. So I'm going to give you an introduction of what Laminar and what Acala is doing. I'm going to have some slides to explain how it's actually working under the hood. And then I'm going to have some demos that's running live because we have both projects already working in the testnet spaces. And I'm going to share that with you live on screen. I'm going to go through some actual usage scenario in the screen. I'm going to talk about, after that, I'm going to introduce the cross-chain and the capability that's enabled, only possible within the Polkadot space. And Bryan going to take over, talk about some technical highlights. I'm going to share some of our first-hand experience building on Substrate. And hopefully there's something that's going to be fruitful for some of the dev out there. We have a lot of first-hand experience when building on Substrate and Polkadot. And finally, we actually just launched the Acala testnet publicly yesterday. And Bette going to share our launch strategy and the ecosystem program of Acala, and talk about how we actually bring Acala from like a testnet status to a Canary Network status, and then finally reach to a mainnet status. So we have like 20 plus engineer and other staff combined in both projects worldwide. Most of our team from the Laminar side is based in Auckland, New Zealand. So it's actually early morning for us. It's like 8 a.m. right now. And we, the Acala team also have the Polka Wallet team is also based on Shanghai. And we also have presence in Singapore. So we are a worldwide team. We are growing and expanding. It's very exciting. So back in the Sub-Zero talk last year, we say probably like half of the size right now, but we grow a lot. So I think this space is getting very, very interesting. So a lot of serious teams getting into this space. So the two projects that we're currently working on are focused on this Laminar Chen, which is we focus on synthetic asset and margin trading. And for the Acala network, it's actually a dual protocol network. It has the collectorized stablecoin solution. It also has the liquidity, the state liquidity protocol, which I'm going to give a little bit of introduction later on. So let's talk about the Acala project first. So Acala is the first of the kind decentralized financial consortium. So that means that our goal of building Acala is that we don't want to, since it's such an important and it's such a cornerstone piece of the DeFi space in the Polkadot ecosystem, we don't think it's reasonable, and we don't think it's viable for any single party or entity to control this network. So we started Acala as a financial consortium, a decentralized financial consortium. We built it with the foundation and fundamental for it to grow into like a fully decentralized financial consortium. The initial two members is Laminar, which is us, and Polka Wallet, which is a very influential and active development team based in Shanghai. They are also the de facto mobile wallet solution to go in the Polkadot ecosystem. And we are always open for future members to join this consortium. The goal of this decentralized financial consortium is that we want to gradually, progressively from an proof of from like a few members and grow into like a truly decentralized way, like by introducing more and more players to join and in the space. And like it's not only for us at the beginning, we would like to also invite all the other ecosystem players to actually join and participate in this consortium to actually make sure that that it's you have your say in this consortium. Like because stablecoin is such an important topic, important pieces of an blockchain ecospace. We don't think it's reasonable that any entity should have complete control of that. And it's a dual protocol network. And so there's like the Honjo protocol, which is like the characterized stablecoin. There's also the Homa protocol, which is the state liquidity. I'm gonna go into the characterized stablecoin a little bit. So this is like the first of its kind, multi-collateral and cross-chain capable stablecoin in the market. So we are building the characterized stablecoin using the substrate framework, and we plan to connect this network into both Kusama and Polkadot as a parachain. And one advantage of like connecting into the Polkadot parachain is that you can access to any other assets that's available on the Polkadot ecospace. And one of the partner that we are able to form initially is Chen. If you are familiar with Chen, you already understand they already have a pretty much mature Bitcoin network running as a layer 2 of the Bitcoin network. They already have an XBDC that's pretty much functioning in their network. They're going to be connected into the Polkadot as a parachain at some stage as well. So there is some of the foreign asset that we can take advantage of the interconnected and interoperability of the Polkadot. And because it's multi-collateral from day one, we are not limited to like 1 or 2 assets. We can be always open to accepting future assets collateral to able to lift the issuance ceiling and able to accept more and more variety into this character like stablecoin. The initial asset that we plan to support is obviously DOT and XBDC, and obviously you can use Bitcoin as character, and you can use DOT as character. The other advantage of building with using this substrate and parachain architecture is that we have our full customizability. Like in our chain, we have the full flexibility to customize logic as we wish. We are not bound to the underlying blockchain limitation, similar to what we find in the existing smart contract solutions. So that means we can have some pretty interesting when we are developing this stablecoin project. For example, we're thinking about, hey, if you hold a certain amount of stablecoin in this chain, we can maybe enable you to do some free transactions. And that's something that's very, very unique in this space. We are also thinking, hey, we can charge the transaction fee in multiple type of tokens. Like currently, if you have DAI in the Ethereum blockchain, and if you want to transfer DAI, you would have to pay ETH as gas, which is counterintuitive in our opinion. In our chain, because we are able to fully customize the logic, we can charge the transaction fee in aUSD, and that makes a lot more sense than paying the transaction fee in a completely different foreign asset. So that is pretty much the characterized stablecoin. We actually pretty much reached to an alpha stage of the characterized stablecoin project. We launched the testnet, which I'm going to show you in a minute, and you can actually join and play today. Bette gonna have some announcement regarding the testnet, and heads up, we might have some candy planted if you join and participate in the testnet at this stage. The next protocol is gonna support by the Acala network is the state liquidity, and this is like the reason that we think it's also important to have this state liquidity protocol is because we are dealing with DOT here, and DOT is an proof of stake assets. All the current characterized stablecoin solution out there, they are pretty much like the dominant solution maker DAO out there. They use their character is Ether. So Ether is at this stage proof of work asset. It has no capability for being able to stake at least for now, not before ETH2. But DOT is different. The reason it being that DOT has yield. So if you stake DOT, you will have some, you actually help to validate the network. You actually can earn some return and reward. And if you think about that, if you have DOT, and then if you want to lock it as collateral, and then if you also want to stake it as and to earn the rewards, you have like a problem. Like you can't have the DOT in two places. You either have to choose I want to lock it or I have to stake it. But it doesn't have to be that like that. The fact is that because it's the blockchain, your money can actually be in two places. So we introduced the concept of LDOT. That means you can stake your DOT. You can stake all your DOT through our parachain in a trustless way. And at the in our project, we're going to issue you a redeemable receipt for your stake DOT, and that we call it L dot. The L dot can be freely traded and can be freely it can be used as a form of collateral as well, while the underlying DOTs remain staked. So basically, we free the liquidity of the stake DOT and like basically make sure in a magical way make your money to appear in two places while stay safe. So that is the state liquidity, the protocol that we're gonna work on the next stage. So to make sure that your DOT can appear in both places. And if we talk about the interchain and the interoperability between the different projects in the Polkadot ecosystem, this is what we imagine that the Acala project is able to bring and able to contribute in the in the Polkadot ecospace. So you can see here we have the Acala chain running as one of the parachain that's proposed, and we can accept any collateral that has value and has liquidity as we deem as a solid collateral. We can accept that. As you can see here, we have Bitcoin, we have Polkadot DOT, we have Ethereum proposed as the collateral that we might be able to support at some stage. And the aUSD that's minted and available on the Acala network can be freely flow into other Polkadot parachain project. In this example here, we show that there's a game chain, maybe at some stage, that can utilize the aUSD as a stablecoin. There might be some decentralized exchange chain that can utilize the USD as a stable coin. And that's just a tip of the iceberg of what we can do on the Polkadot ecospace, on the project chains infrastructure. Keep in mind, this is very different from, I wouldn't say that very different. This is different from what we're able to do in the Ethereum space. Just keep in mind that each of these chain has their own unique design of how token economics work and how the actual underlying transaction fee and those low level stuff should work. But they all connected to the Polkadot, and they all share the security of the Polkadot relay chain. And this is like something that's brand new. We never see that before, and we think this is very, very exciting, and we think this is like sharding in the next level. So we think this is very, very interesting. We are looking forward to able to grow in the Polkadot relay chain ecosystem. So regarding the Acala progress right now, as I mentioned, this testnet is launched. We are live, and we have Candy Planet, which maybe Bette will have a little bit of announcement in that in soon. So I'm gonna show you actually how the testnet of the Acala project is working. So I'm gonna switch to my browser window. I'm gonna switch to the Acala front end tab, and I'm gonna do a refresh, and hopefully and pray to the demo god that this should be working. It's quite excited to see to present this front end live to the general public. So as you can see here, we have a chain that's already up and running. We actually have quite a number of nodes that's already joining. There's some of our proof of liveness partner that's already joined that has started validating in this network already. And And you can see this is the front-end dApp to interact with the chain. We can have dots and we can have Bitcoin as collateral for now. I already have some of the dots and I already have some of the test XBDC. Heads up, if you need to have some test coins in this dApp, there's a faucet channel that you can request. We have a bot to give out these testing tokens. Just heads up and just follow on what Bette is gonna announce. And I'm gonna actually try to create a loan here. So I'm gonna click the dot. Maybe I'll choose Bitcoin. I'm gonna choose dot. I'm gonna choose dot. I'm going to say that I'm going to lock up one dot and I'm going to issue maybe 100 aUSD. And you can see the parameter changes on the right hand side. And so that give us the collateralization ratio and they give us the liquidation price of dots. And I'm going to press next. I'm going to press, I agree with the term and condition. I'm going to press next. And this is the Polkadot.js, the MetaMask equivalent in the Polkadot ecosystem. I'm going to type in my password. I'm going to authorize that transaction. And hopefully this will work. And you can see that I just create our loan. I take out a new loan out of this this testnet. And if I go back there, you can see this brand new 100 USD loan is already created. So press that, I can go to the Polkadot scan and heads up to the Web3 scan and Polkadot scan team. They are awesome in supporting us to create this block scanner. And if you are working in a Polkadot space and similar of what I'm trying to do, definitely get in touch with the Polkadot scan team. They are the Web3. They support quite a number of different other projects in the as a scanner. So you can see that I check out 100 dots. I take one dot as a character and I have some dApps. So that's pretty much the actual how the Acala network is working. We are still finalizing quite a number of stuff, but that's already give you a glimpse of what's coming. And we also have a decentralized exchange built in that you're able to exchange like aUSD to DOT, or you're able to exchange aUSD to Bitcoin. So that's like the Oasis equivalent in the Acala space. So and we think it's even better because like this is a decentralized exchange. This is not the order book type of exchange. We also have a demo governance module. This is what we're trying to improve at this stage. So there's like those is the front end dApp that you are able to experience right now. As I said, this chain is fully up and running. So you can see this what I did just now. It's already happening on the chain. So that is pretty much what we have been working on the Acala side. So that's enough for the Acala side. And remember, there's like we have a question and answer session after that, after the presentation. That would be we have some time to answer any short question. But if you have any question right now, you can post that in the chat, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna pick it up and answer that. So that's pretty much the Acala side. And I'm gonna briefly go through the Laminar side. So for Laminar side, we are very focused on synthetic asset and margin trading. And we're trying to, in a simple way, we're trying to find the liquidity that's available on the centralized exchange and decentralize it to make it available in a decentralized way. Using this sort of, using our protocol, you should be able to trade any asset that has a repeatable price fit in the real world, such as Bitcoin, such as Ethereum, such as gold, such as S&P 500 or Apple stock, or maybe Tesla stock. That's like this one of the hottest stock, one of the hottest stock that's available on the Nasdaq right now. So what we're trying to do is trying to bring this physical and physical and solid asset that's not available on the blockchain before and bring that available on the blockchain in a decentralized way. So, I mean, this is pretty much how it works. So we have a protocol called Flow Protocol. And in the beginning, there will be an oracle to fit in the price. We're going to choose an asset that has a repeatable price fit. And in this example that I'm using, it's the Euro USD. We might be choosing Bloomberg as the price fit. And there will be a liquidity provider to lock in their position in the Flow protocol with a little bit of spread. The spread is actually the price difference when you buy and sell, and make it available for general public to trade in this sort of asset, Euro USD. And then obviously there'll be trader to trade against this liquidity provider. And as the Oracle changes in price, the actual profit and loss is calculated real time on Chen. And you can see if the price change a little bit, then the actual profit and loss is calculated. And the trader might be winning some money, the trader might be losing some money. And this is how the flow protocol work. And the question you might have, obviously, at this stage is why would a liquidity provider to provide this sort of liquidity, since that they might be losing money if the trader wins? And the answer is that because in the real world, in the mature financial market space, it's not hard for the liquidity to source this short, for the liquidity provider to source this sort of liquidity. Like, for example, the Euro USD market is like $1 trillion market a day. So as a liquidity provider, they can able to source this liquidity in the current legacy or traditional financial institutions, and they are able to source that in a much affordable way. So let's say the liquidity provider is taking a little bit of spread here. This liquidity provider is able to offset in the centralized world and able to take out a much cheaper spread from a traditional finance provider. And by taking this a little bit of spread, so the liquidity provider, if they hedge, they are already earning a little bit of profit. But obviously, they are also taking a little bit of risk as well. So what they are doing is that they are taking the risk of a centralized exchange, and they are able to work out financial wise. They are able to work out and price. They are able to offer on chain, and as on the trader, they are able to trade in a decentralized way, and they're able to tap into this sort of liquidity that's otherwise not available in the blockchain space. And this is pretty much why we believe that this is the way to decentralize and centralized liquidity. So we're trying to have this broker model to reflect that on the blockchain. This is our goal of the Laminar exchange, is that we believe that there's a lot of assets, and then there's a lot of solid assets available in the traditional finance world. So, for example, the Apple stock, that might be Bitcoin. So BitMax itself is also a huge centralized liquidity provider for Bitcoin, and we're hoping that we with more and more price fit we're able to provide, and more liquidity provider we're able to check and introduce, and there will be more and more trader to trade this flow protocol, and it's going to create a positive feedback. And more trader means more liquidity provider. More liquidity provider means more trader, and more trader means more competitive pricing for the liquidity provider. And we're hoping to bring to create a positive feedback here to bring this sort of asset into the blockchain world. The flow protocols we are implemented in 2 places. So currently we are implementing on Ethereum, and we're also creating a substrate first, a substrate chain to implement the exact same protocol on Polkadot / substrate as well. The reason that we choose substrate and Polkadot is because in the DeFi space, performance wins. Performance always wins. Able to have a shorter block time, able to have a faster confirmation or finality time, it can hugely improve the pricing, the spreading, and the trading experience of this of the product that we're trying to bring. So we are going to implement that on the protocol in Ethereum, and at a stage we're going to implement that in Polkadot, and there would be definitely some pricing difference there. And if the trader is smart, we hope that they will going to migrate into the Polkadot into the Polkadot chain to trade. And again, I'm going to show you some demo that we're able to do to progress in the Laminar side. So obviously, this is the flow protocol implemented in the Ethereum in the Kovan testnet. I'm already connected to the Kovan testnet. I can see my balance here. I can click on margin trading, and I can see some of the test market that we set up here that where I'm able to trade. So by going through this market, by tapping the Apple stock, I can see that, hey, the Apple stock is doing well, it's going up. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to say that I'm going to buy maybe $1,000 worth of Apple stock at 5x the leverage. And by clicking that, I will just sign a transaction using my MetaMask. And I have some test DAI that's on my wallet. And hopefully you can see that I already opened a long position in Apple stock. And notice the profit and loss here. I'm already losing money because this is the price spread I talk about. And in this testnet, we have a very big spread, and that's purely for the testing. And hopefully, if the Apple stock goes up at some stage, I'm able to close that and make some profit. We also have a swap and spot exchange as well that I'm able to do one-to-one trading. For example, I can buy $100 worth of Apple stock or maybe $100 worth of gold at this stage, and those is what we call synthetic asset. I can do an exchange right here. It's the same process if you would. There's also some underdeveloped, some part of the site that we're currently working on. So there's some borrow and lending part, and there's also the liquidity provider tab that you can able to see what sort of pricing spread, what sort of liquidity the liquidity provider is able to provide in this flow protocol. So that is pretty much the Laminar progress that we're able to share at this stage. And after that, I'm gonna spend a little bit of time talking about the interoperability and the synergy that we're able to bring in these two projects, and actually the projects across the Polkadot ecospace. And in this very, very simple diagram here, we can see that this is already start to building up its shape. So you can see that Polkadot, the dot can be flow into the Acala network and be used as a collector. Obviously, dot freed using the hallmark protocol, the L dot that we're able to issue can also flow into Acala and being traded in the decentralized exchange. Chen, another influential player in the Polkadot ecosystem, their Bitcoin can be flow into the Acala ecosystem as the collector to take out loan. And obviously, in Laminar Chain, the decentralized the synthetic asset that we're building, we will have the aUSD, which is the stablecoin that Acala is going to create as the preferred base currency for us to trade. And this is just, again, the tip of the iceberg. We can see a lot more synergy there as the Polkadot ecosystem space grows. We can see a lot more synergy to grow within different projects. So that is pretty much the overall progress and what we're trying to do, where I'm able to share at this stage. And from the next part of the presentation, I would like to invite Bryan, which is CTO of Laminar and Chief Architect of Acala. He's going to share some technical stuff, some deep dive into the technical world, and share some first-hand experience of building on substrate. So Dan, can you switch, help to bring Bryan on board?
Yep, there's Bryan, and I'll just turn your video off, Rutao, and then you can continue presenting your slides.
Okay, thank you.
And we do have 8 questions that are in a queue, so we can either take a couple now, or we can maybe take a couple after Bryan gives his presentation. What do you guys prefer?
Okay. I think I can start to answer some of the question right now. So maybe I will take 4 questions from top to bottom at this stage. So first one is that, is there any major difference between Acala and Maker in the token economic and governance model? I mean, very, very good question. And the answer is yes, there's quite a number of difference between there's quite a number of difference between Maker and Acala. There's not a lot I can share at this stage. We actually have an Acala economic paper that's published in the GitHub, and that's work in progress. And we are finalizing another paper that's working how the collectors and the Oracle will be rewarded. But in terms of the token economic, I would say that in terms of the governance model, I would say that it's actually we are trying to follow the Polkadot and / the Kusama model. So we're gonna have council member elected by Acala holders, and then we have different councils that has different specialized functionality in the Acala network. So we actually have a financial counsel that will be in charge of the financial risk parameters, and we have a technical counsel that will be in charge of the technical parameters of the blockchain, and they'll be elected by the Acala holders. And also we have a general counsel that will be ultimately responsible for the most important decision, and they will be again elected by the Acala holders. So this is like one of the difference that we try to bring here, is that we try to participate and engage the community early to make sure that everyone has have some influence on the stablecoin protocol. The next question is actually, so is the Acala and Laminar team plan and thinking about a long-term goal with parachain? I think so. So I actually doesn't. So to be honest, I read parachains like the generalized financial framework for the parachain. I actually have a little bit of reading of that. I didn't have a lot of deep dive into the parachain yet, but obviously, in this space, especially in the Polkadot and / the actually general blockchain ecospace, we believe this is not the age for competition. This is the age for cooperation. Like the market is actually growing every day, right? So every project that we're able to bring network on us together is we think it's synergy rather than competition. And in fact, we're saying the same for even Maker or Kava. I mean, we don't see them as competitor. We see them as like companion that reinforce the idea of decentralized finance, of reinforce the idea of the value that we hold, and we believe that in the future everyone should have control of their asset or things like that. So we think every project that's working on the blockchain space at this stage is actually companion or partners rather than competitors. So yeah, so definitely maybe get in touch with Bette at some stage, or get in touch with me, and then we can definitely work something out together. That's any sort of collaboration is welcome at this stage. So the next is that, will there be any bridge into other parachains? We're looking for usage for StarMatch.xyz. Okay, so actually this question is fairly easy to answer. So I think this the answer is definitely yes. And the thing is that if we work under the Polkadot or the Kusama as the relay chain, this cross-chain functionality between parachain will be built in, and they will be delivered by the Web3 Foundation. So there's already a talk about XCMP, which is the cross-chain messaging protocol between different parachain. As long as we adopt the same protocol in terms of like how token work, or how the value is going to be transferred, and this sort of interoperability is already built in as one of the advantage of working as a parachain in this ecospace. So definitely, and for this question, if we're gonna answer that in the truly blockchain manner, is that you don't actually even have to ask for permission. You can just do it. Just like if you want to use Star, you don't actually have to ask permission. You can just do it, and that's the spirit of blockchain. So the answer is yes, and not only parachain, and also Thread as well. So the next question: did you build a bridge to Bitcoin? And the answer is no, we didn't plan to build a bridge to Bitcoin. So we're gonna utilize any bridge that has solid connection to Bitcoin, and gonna bridge that into we're gonna use that. So at this stage, we think Chen has a very solid bridge to the Bitcoin. At some stage, Polkadot might have some Polkadot. There might be some other Bitcoin bridge that appear on the Polkadot or the Kusama network as well. As long as we deem that it's solid, and as long as the Acala holder think those assets is solid and trustless, and then we can use that as a collector as well. So that is pretty much the first 4 questions they were able to answer. So maybe we can have some technical highlights from Bryan, and then we'll be able to continue to answer question after that.
Hi everyone. This is Bryan. So technical highlights. We can go to the next slide. So I'm going to talk about using Acala and the Laminar chain as example, covering how things can be built differently with Substrip. So obviously, Acala and Laminar Chain, they are built with Substrate. Substrate is, if you haven't heard before, is a blockchain building framework that is also powering the Polkadot network as well and Kusama Network. So with Substrate, we are able to build our own platforms. That means it's very flexible. We can build our own token economic designs. But as Ray mentioned before, we can do a lot of things that simply is not possible in other platforms. Like, for example, making certain transactions to be free. Obviously, making a free transaction can be a security concern because people can, for example, like span the network with free transaction and fill all the blocks. So we need to have other mechanisms to ensure this cannot be abused. But again, it was not possible before and it's possible now. So like for certain transactions, like for example, if Oracle sending the new data to the network, we believe that it's benefiting the network. So there isn't any reasons we need to charge this fee. And actually, we may give the Oracle operators a reward by having them send the valuable data onto the network. So next thing is the governance upgradability. Substrate itself comes with a lot of different governance modules, which is also powering the governance of the Polkadot network. So this is very useful because one of the issue of many current DeFi protocol is they all have an admin key. Well, maybe not all of them have admin key, but most of them have admin key. They have very good powers that people may not be aware of. For example, they might be able to lock your funds and they may be able to take your funds out with the admin key. So that may not be obvious but in the end, if they can upgrade the smart contracts, and they will be able to upgrade the smart contracts to something malicious and taking all your funds away. So with the governance module and upgradability feature of the Polkadot, we can solve this issue kind of. So first is we can upgrade the runtime because it's basically a wasn't blob and commit onto the chain. So we can do something and later we can improve it. But that does come with a great security risk that people may be able to submit a malicious upgrade. And if that get executed, then people's fund will be in the risk. So that's why the governance module comes in. We can place many rules to ensure this doesn't, to minimize the risk of the malicious upgrade. So for example, people can propose upgrade, but the upgrade requires everyone, the token holders to vote. If like certain amount of voters voting against with this upgrade, then you get rejected. We also have a technical councils. They will also have the right to reject an upgrade or stop accept upgrade that is pending to be upgraded, because they may be examining the code and find out there's this vulnerability in the code there, so they can come in and stop the upgrade. We also have, as Ray mentioned before, we have quite a few different councils. So for example, financial councils, they have the ability to configure the parameters for the financial part of the network, of the protocol. Then we have other councils, like for example, the L.dot holders, they will be able to, using the governance module, to vote which validators they want the protocol to nominate into. So all these things, they can code in a clear manner that people know those guys, they can do the thing. They cannot do other things. They cannot upgrade the runtime and taking people's funds away. So this allows us to design a very interesting governance model that minimizes the risk. The next thing, off-chain worker. Off-chain worker is a very interesting in the substrate. I think it's a very unique feature of the blockchain building framework. Ray, can I go to the next slide? So off-chain workers is the component that bridging between the on-chain and off-chain world. So most of the blockchain platforms relies on some off-chain components that due to the limitation of the blockchain itself. For example, heavy computations, they shouldn't be run on-chain unless it's security-related critical pieces. And that's many other information simply are not available on-chain. For example, many pricing data, like information about real-world assets, forex market price, this sort of thing. You have to get them from off-chain. So what off-chain worker enables is runs by every full node by default. And it's also part of runtime, which means it's also upgradable and configurable by the runtime itself. So the same governance module applies, same governance rules apply to a runtime upgrades, also apply to the off-chain workers. So people can, so that means compared to the other traditional off-chain components, they are usually a separate server that runs by certain parties, probably most likely the project maintainer itself, to feeding the data, like for example, Oracle data onto the chain. For example, they monitoring the positions on the chain and sending a liquidation calls to liquidate dangerous positions. Previously, they are usually required by to be run by other parties in a separate server. So this comes to its own issues because first, if those protocol relies on those components, but those components are off-chain, so there isn't much guarantee people are running this component. And if people don't, then some fundamental assumption of the DeFi protocol will be broken and make this security, make the protocol insecure. With off-chain workers, because it's part of the runtime, and part of the node, full node itself. So it's distributed and run along with the network. So we don't need to actually ask people to run it because everyone running a full node will be running it already. But obviously, some of the certain tasks is not shouldn't be run by every full node. So that may be not a good idea. For example, reading exchange price and feeding the network. Then we want people to feeding the network, but we actually probably don't want to every full node to do this. Otherwise, we might be DDoS the exchange or the pricing source, and also maybe DDoS the network itself because too many price feeding transactions. So we can then the easiest solution is basically only make validators or collectors to run the off-chain workers. Because the validators and collectors, they are already staking into the network. They are already participate into one of the most critical pieces of the network that is building blocks and maybe participating in the consensus. So they already have a lot of stake. So we can trust them in a way that they will run off-chain workers to improve the network. But if we cannot, but obviously in the blockchain world, no one can be trusted. So we can build some incentive designs as well to make sure we can detect managers' behavior of them. For example, not feeding Oracle price or feeding Oracle constantly feeding a bad price can be detected on chain, and then there will be a slashable event for them. So this also allows us to move many heavy computation work to off-chain without compromise on the security and integrities. Like for example, what Polkadot, one thing protocol they're currently implementing is the off-chain voting algorithm that allow people to vote or nominate the nomination to validators. So currently, the whole selection algorithm happens on the runtime on chain, which is quite computation heavily and can take some time to run and could cause performance issues when there are too many validators and nominators. So one solution is basically move this computation off chain, and then on chain it's relatively easy to verify this result is indeed the best result, compared to in the other way that you need to run the whole algorithm trying to find the best combinations of the nominations. So this allows us to do a lot of different things that without improving the network. So next thing, open runtime module library. So we are building Acala and Laminar at the same time. So what we see is fundamentally we see a lot of common functionality between two networks. Like for example, we both need Oracle modules. We both have multi-currencies, and there are a lot of utility functions that can be shared. So that's why we're building this open runtime module library and open sourcing it. So we call it ORML. So it comes with many common modules, as I mentioned before. This allows a lot of great reusability, so we don't need to coding things twice. And we hope other people can also benefiting from this open source library as well. So they don't need to like for example, implement Oracle modules or the auction modules again. So we try to make this as reusable as possible. And next. One of the issues we have right now is in the Polkadot itself only supports one token that's stored. So they offers a balanced palette that supports this. But we actually in Acala and Laminar, we need to have support multiple tokens. That's why we're building our own tokens currencies module in ORML. But because we are thinking, because Laminar and Acala is going to connecting to other blockchains, we are not only just ourselves, we're connecting to everyone else's. So it's kind of important that we have a token standard that allow us, so everyone to implementing having a same tokens module. So that, for example, SDK and wallets, they can easily support different blockchains. And each blockchains are able to send a message that other blockchains they can understand. So that's why we have initiated this Polkadot token standard. It's also part of the Web3 Foundation's Polkadot token standard proposal. And we hope everyone can help and participate into this token standard to finalize it. So this is all for me today. So next, Bette will come in to share the launch plans.
Awesome. Thanks, Bryan. There we go.
Oh, cool. Hi, guys. I mean, firstly, thanks for the opportunity to come to this webinar and talk to everyone. And I will just, I see the time is ticking, and I will just briefly talk about the launch plans and how you can actually participate. We do have many other resources available that I will probably send through later that you guys can just jump onto it. It's pretty straightforward. So next slide, Retail. Yeah, so I mean, firstly, is Acala is a trilogy networks, right? There are 3 networks planned for Acala Network, and the one that Retail showed you is what we've just launched is the Mandala test network. So it is a test network, meaning that it is a risk-free and also value-free network that you can go on and play with and try out all the functionalities that are available. So that's from Stablecoin, and then try out maybe auctions, and there's exchanges, and all the bits and pieces you can try out for free. And it's also a good playground for developers who are interested to integrate with us and try the tech out. And later on, there will be a Karura Canary Network. So this network will be similar to Kusama, and our plan is actually connect to Kusama from the Karura network. And that would mean it will be a network with value, and also you can actually use say KSM as collateral, and then loan out US dollars, and then use it on the parachains, either on Acala or other networks, right? So and then of course the mainnet is Acala, and then we'll be participating in initial parachain offering. I think Retail has already done a pretty good job showing you guys Mandala. I think some of you I saw in the chat that already jump onto the faucet and got some test tokens and already loan out some aUSD. I think needless to say, the web front end is pretty easy to use, yeah. And in the meantime, do join the Riot channel that Bryan posted out, because we've been receiving pretty good feedback from there. And the community has given us quite a good test drive, and then gave us tips on how to improve things, which has been great to I think crowdsourcing collective intelligence per se. Yeah, so and then as for the Mandala testnet, the plan is stay as a POA network, like proof of authority. So we only known players to actually govern the network. We will actually turn on the governance, like the councils and a voting process later through an upgrade. But that will actually run alongside like the pseudo module. So so the purpose is only to experiment various ways of governing and then to implement our governance plan and see how things plan out. Whereas later stage, the Karura network, where we will actually turn on the real governance with real value of the network, right? And yeah, so I think like you probably already see many nodes are actually running for Mandala network. So a lot of them are just full node, and some of them are already validated nodes. So while the Mandala network is a value-free network, it doesn't mean there wouldn't be candies. So there aren't any actual rewards per se by running the validator nodes, but we are preparing some surprise prizes for people participating. So there are many ways, right? So we'll send out some details later on. So if you are a node runner, like validator, if you participate, we will give prizes to, surprise prizes to people participate. And if you're a developer, we have some tasks for building bots and also helping to build programs around the network. And those will be like grants or prizes given out. And also if you are just users wanting to try things out, like creating CDPs or loaning out aUSD or trying out DEX, there will also be surprise drops of candies to you. So yeah, so it's a good time right now to actually get familiar with all the stuff on the network and then and wait for the price drop. Yeah, so and then the plan is like the next stage is the Karura Canary Network, and the plan is to become a parachain on Kusama, and we will actually implement the economic model, and also what Retail has talked about, the economics of the network. The real Acala network will actually involve rewarding not just collated. So we actually call them proof of liveness nodes because it is not just collated. So it plays the role as collator where it will, send the information to, the transactions to the relay chain for validation. That's one of the role, but also that also keeps the network running. That's a second role. But also in addition to that, Bryan mentioned off-chain workers. So the POL nodes would also provide Oracle services and also potentially like automatic liquidation and things like that. And they will all be rewarded accordingly in the network. So that's the Karura. I won't speak too much. I think there's only 2 minutes left. And in terms of the, so the lastly is the Acala Mainnet, and it's, it will be participate in the parachain auctions, and also for the IPO supporters, important for those dot holders. If you are actually helping us to in the auctions, there will be rewards in ACA tokens for you, and also other ways to actually engage as well. And yeah, so I think all the other parts that Retail already mentioned in terms of the collaterals that will be used for the aUSD. And also we do have a pathway to decentralization, right? So at the beginning, there will be POA consoles being governing the network, and then gradually it will be evolved to elected consoles, and then later like referendum will be introduced. But also the tokens release plan is also coded on chain. So all the tokens will be minted on Genesis, and their schedules, vesting schedules will be coded on chain. And you can see gradually the core team will be losing control. And that's how, the decentralization will happen alongside with the development of the ecosystem as well as the Acala chain. So and then lastly is the Acala ecosystem program. And the goal is very simple. Like Acala is ultimately an ecosystem that and also DeFi infrastructure owned and should be owned and governed by the community, not one team. So this program is pretty much a direct way that we can engage, empower, and enlighten teams to like collaborate and then build together and then integrate and co-create. So yeah, so these are the teams already signed up. So if you are interested, we'll post out a link as well that you can sign up and we can have a chat and see how we can collaborate and build this DeFi future together. I think that's me, and it's 9 o'clock.
With a second to spare. Thanks, Betty.
No
Rui
problem.
Tao, if you want to come, I can turn your video back on.
Yes.
If people, I don't know if you guys have to leave right now. If people on the line do need to go, they can. But if you guys have 5 or 10 minutes to answer the questions that are in the queue here, that would also be great.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think I'm going to go through the answers here. So there's 11 questions. I'm going to go through and answer all of those. So the first is that how is the price fit oracle for Acala works? And you can, I think after the talk, you can pretty much see that we built the oracle right into the as an off-chain worker. So, and also there's few difference between I mean at the end it's still an oracle that takes a price feed from a reputable source and feed it in a blockchain. But the key difference is that first it's it doesn't cost any money to write into the Acala network as an oracle, which is I think it's quite counterintuitive for an oracle to spend money. In fact, if you become elected as an oracle, you can actually get rewards by writing price feed into the blockchain. And second, so you can this is like a whitelist process, and there's going to be a governance module to elect what oracle operator is able to operate. So other than that, it's at the end, it's still the same as like it's not a decentralized oracle. We understand that like to have a complete decentralized oracle is not viable at this stage, at least not now. But we remember we have a decentralized exchange and Uniswap type of decentralized exchange that's built right into the Acala. So those might be later on turned into one of the oracle sources as well to gradually turn into a decentralized oracle. But we do believe that the current approach that we take for Acala is already a huge step forward from the Ethereum. From the Ethereum implementation. So how is about Laminar for real price fit? How fast can we check on the price of stock? So it's for Laminar, it will have the same approach. Again, we're gonna whitelist a set of oracle that will be trust that can fit into the ecosystem. They're gonna write at very high frequency. And if we wanna choose on Laminar, if we want to choose the price feed, we're gonna choose the price feed that's reputable, right? For example, Bloomberg for exchange and stock price feed. That is, I think it's not gonna be at 100% real time. There's still a little bit lagging behind, but it's already a huge improvement from the Ethereum platform. So that pretty much should answer the question for the oracle feed. So next one. Stake dot with different validator with different commission. This is a good question. So the fact is that for stake dot, there will be a hallmark console that control where the dot goes to, and the L dot holder will have the ability to elect a set of council member that they trust, and the council member will be in charge of like choose which where to direct those stock into the highest yield of validators. And hopefully this will be like a decentralized process as well. Then there will be, I mean, as an elder holder, you choose a council that you trust, and as a council, they will perform the duty they needed to choose the highest yield validators. But as an elder holder, the yield they will be getting is like from the validator that chosen by the council. Hopefully that will answer the question. The other question, the next question is about the collector from other. Oh, actually, there's one that's pop up. So, do you have any support to support other token? The question is that do you have plan to support other token from parachain in the DEX? The answer is actually yes, and actually this is like what we're trying to build in the right way. The decentralized exchange, we're gonna gradually open that so it become a Uniswap, and you don't actually have to ask our permission to support that. The key thing is that hey, we all stick into the same token standard, and I'm gonna do push that again for all the projects building on Polkadot right now. Participate and engage in this token standard proposal early, so we can have a solid foundation to look forward. As long as we talk in the same standard, there shouldn't be any problem for us to support all the assets they'll be throwing in the Polkadot's relation ecosystem. And hopefully that answered the question. The next question is that we have crypto from many forms, like from Chen, Chen, and other parachain, and illiquid token can have a vast effect. How do we avoid that? So the ultimate solution, the ultimate judgment of like what sort of asset can be choose to become a crypto on the Acala platform is one of the most important parameters that we are able to govern, and it will be governed directly by the General Council. And hopefully this will be a lengthy process. If we want to choose to have an crypto, you need to pass certain amount of consideration, such as the liquidity, the decentralized degree of such token. So I would say that we will be very careful in the beginning. So that's why we support only DOT and XBDC probably in the beginning, and we'll be very careful with the asset that will be considered viable as a crypto in the beginning, and gradually open that as a democratic process. And hopefully, as we grow, more and more people are gonna participate in the network, and more people are gonna make reasonable decision on what sort of crypto should be available. Yes. And there's a follow-up question. Every project want their coin to be a crypto. The governance process will be hard. Yes, it will be hard. Obviously, it will be hard. And that's why we believe like progressive of decentralization is important. So initially, the council member, I mean, before we have any degree of decentralization, the council member will be chosen by the initiator of the projects, right? So those will be in charge of make sure that the network and runs and the character we make and chose makes sense. We have the incentive to make the network survive. And at some stage, as more and more petition comes in, we believe a democratic process should be enough to govern that. And the next question about can you tell us something about the collaboration with Chen, and do we have plan to integrate with PCX? The obvious answer we can say is that we have very good connection with Chen, and at this stage we believe that able to have XBDC as one of the assets when relation become available is a huge plus for both projects. We currently don't have any plan to have the PCX at this to integrate with PCX at this stage, but I think that's reasonable, right? The PCX is the native token of the Chen parachain, and ACA is the native token of the Acala parachain, and that's how the beauty works between different parachain. Like each parachain can have complete different token economic, but they can still work together. I mean, obviously there will be other cooperation that we can, as this project progress, there will be different other possibility that we can work together. For example, PCX can become one of the asset in the decentralized exchange that we are building on, and we will see. But for now, we'll be closely working with XBDC first. So what's the team's previous blockchain experience? Very good question. So myself, I've been in the blockchain space for over 3.5 years. This is my new venture. In my previous venture, we run a very successful blockchain venture studio, which we're able to get a lot of first-hand experience by in my previous venture. We actually delivered quite a number of projects in my previous venture, including one of the most highly valuable token generating exchange that we're able to build. We managed to secure like over 300 million worth of Ether go through our decentralized trading platform. So that's one of the huge plus for us. The other team members, they are almost all blockchain nerds, if I say that correctly. So Bryan is already a very dominant contributor in the substrate eco space, and Bryan also runs a substrate course. I think Bryan has more than 100 students graduated from his substrate course, and that is one of the things that he's been doing for the community. We really appreciate that. And Bryan actually is being considered one of the most senior lecturer outside party to teach in the substrate eco space. And that's pretty much, I can go on for days. Like all of us is pretty much all blockchain players for a long time. So that's pretty much the team composition. how is the liquidity provided on the Laminar synthetic platform? This next one. So as I explained that, there are gonna be liquidity providers that will take advantage of this platform and take advantage of the pricing difference between the centralized liquidity and decentralized from the centralized exchange and decentralized exchange. Initially, we're gonna bootstrap the ecosystem with 2 of the liquidity providers that we're able to secure and back us. But gradually, we believe this should be an automatic process. As more people discover us, as more liquidity providers discover us, there should be an organic way of growing these liquidity providers. So next one, beside Oracle being one off-chain worker, what other tasks they have? Oh, okay, this is a very good question. So beside Oracle, we can also see such as like closing a risky position, like liquidation. That could become an off-chain process, right? And it's like one of the shining point of this project. On Ethereum right now, you don't have a concept of automatic scheduler, right? But on Polkadot, you can. So we can thinking about a lot of other stuff that can be operated as an off-chain worker. For example, liquidators, any sort of stuff that you think should be performed periodically, and as long as you can find a way to incentive the node to run them, it can become a task in the off-chain worker. Okay. Next question: can we talk about the Acala as a multi-network? That is like 2 independent network work for Polkadot and 1 for Kusama. And question: are those 2 network connected? And next question: each one of them would they need a different set of collectors? So the reason that we decide to have 2 networks, like 1 in Kusama and 1 in Polkadot, is like, first is that it's a canary network, and I think it's very reasonable to have a canary network if you believe that Polkadot is gonna have a very solid DeFi space later on, which is extremely high value. It's always good to test something on the canary network to find out if they work or not. If I mean, we say that it's better that you screw up like $1 than you screw up $100. So in terms of that, it's good to have it's good to experiment new feature in the low value network first, and then gradually push that into the main network. And that's why we decide to run 2 networks. So those 2 networks are not connected. We don't believe they should. And the other is that if each one of them need a different group of characters, the answer is yes. So there will be different characters. This will be a Kusama set of characters, and there will be a Polkadot set of characters. The one good thing about running collectors is that we don't need much of them. We don't need like 1,000 collectors to make sure that the network is secure. We will need a lot less than them to make sure the network is we just need collector to make sure the network is live and responding. We don't need to secure the network. Those is the job of the Polkadot. So yeah, we will need them, but the good news is we don't need a lot of them. Okay, the next question. So the aUSD, the question is that aUSD in the current network should be equivalent to aUSD in the Acala Mainnet. Good question. We are thinking about that. So the KAUSD that we plan to issue on the Canary network, we don't think it's gonna be equivalent. If you think about Kusama has 1% of the value of the Polkadot network, we might thinking about, hey, we should make 1 KUSD tied to a cent rather than $1. So we're still going through the economic model regarding that, but we don't think it's gonna be 100% the same. But obviously you can say, yeah, you can get 100 KUSD and then it will be equal to 1 aUSD. But we try to make sure that at a Canary network, at least from the psychological point of view, the value will be lesser. So we're trying to, at this stage, thinking to tie it to a cent rather than tie it to $1. Great. So next question: what's the task that needed to be done to receive reward tokens for the IPO? Can you expand that? Yeah, the task is that actually you don't. You just need to participate in the IPO, help to secure the parachain, and we are coding the reward or the minting of the IPO rewards module on Chen. So if you think about that, it will be very similar to what you will be receiving if you lock DAI in the compound contract on Ethereum. You lock DOT and then you will receiving ACA minted every block as your reward, and those will be freely tradable. But your dot will be stay locked as long as the parachain survives. So those is the answer to the question for that. And the last question, what is the ROI for lock or hold in the dot? So what's the return of investment for locking or the holding of L dot? I think the locking or the holding of L dot. So the L dot is not supposed for you to lock. If you hold L dot, and then you will be. I believe that if the L dot's council is performing their job correctly, then you will be earning one of the highest yield of the Polkadot dot return. So it's not for locking, but the thing is that you can purchase L dot and it will be start to earning reward immediately, and it will be equivalent as the average yield or the higher part of the average yield of the Polkadot network. Yes, and thanks for Leon for answering those two questions for me. Those is exactly to the point. So that pretty much answer all the questions today. And thanks a lot for joining us. We didn't expect that there's so much interest in getting know to what we're building on the Acala and the Laminar project, and there's a lot of questions that have been asked. I hope it's been fruitful for you today to join this webinar. And as I said, there will be candies, and actually we're planning to do a lot of candy job for the Acala Testnet participant, and maybe we can start that with, maybe we can do a little job for the participant today as like you are already getting Kusama for the job, right? So we'll work something out for you today. So that's probably all the talk that we are able to share today, and that's probably the end of the talk today. So thank you. Thanks for all of you for joining with us.
Awesome. Thanks, Rutao, Bette, Bryan. I think on behalf of everyone, that was an awesome presentation. I'm glad to have you on. And everyone on the call, we'll kind of summarize everything that they gave as links or follow-ups, and we'll send that out in an email to everyone following this. So thanks, everybody, for joining. See you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.